let's start with some introduction first, just so we know everybody in the virtual room together. And I'll start, and then Lola asked you to pick out people in the room to introduce themselves. I'm David Newmeyer. I'm chair of the full committee, and Lola and I are chairs of this, co-chairs of this subcommittee, and greatly thank you for your work on this study, this great issue of who applies for the Virginia Bar. And my day job is with Virginia Legal Aid Society in Lynchburg, where I'm executive director. Okay, Lola, could you introduce the people in the room, and then we'll come back to Henry.
Sure. I will let them introduce themselves. I'll go ahead and start. Lola Perkins, Surrey County Attorney. And as David indicated, I have signed up to co-chair this subcommittee. And ditto on his thanks for everyone being here to participate. And Patrick will start with you.
Sure. Patrick Murphy. I'm on the subcommittee and on the main committee, and I'm a senior assistant city attorney with the city of Newport News.
Solomon Ashby, judge in the 3rd District, city of Portsmouth.
And Jennifer Franklin, I'm a professor of practice here at William & Mary.
Excellent, thank you. Henry. I think you're muted, Henry.
I was actually not just muted, I was temporarily disconnected. So
okay, it's that kind of day.
So just you were turning to me.
Yes, just introduce yourself.
Yeah, Henry Sue. I am participating in this meeting from Washington, D.C. Happen to be a lawyer with the U.S. Department of Justice Antitrust Division. So since we're on the record and all that, I do need to say that all things I say on this call are my own views and not necessarily the views of the Department or the United States.
Good to know. Thank you. Henry, could you also describe your role with the American Bar Association? I think people should know that.
Yes, I also chair the ABA Standing Committee on Pro Bono and Public Service. And I'm also a member of the Access to Legal Services Standing Committee for the State Bar.
Excellent. Thank you. Chris, for FOIA purposes, do we need to identify locations again?
We do for the remote participants.
Yeah.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
Remote participants, we need to know their full address if they're at a business, or just city, county if they're at a personal residence.
Okay. This is David. I'm at my personal residence in Lynchburg, Virginia.
Yes,
Henry.
and I'm at 450 5th Street Northwest in Washington, D.C.
And Judge Ortiz just joined us. Dan, where are you located?
I'm on 81. I would say I'm outside of Woodstock, Virginia. I'm somewhere between Woodstock and Newmarket. How about that?
Good enough.
It's great. To add to the technical difficulties, IT is coming down to me because I just got a notice that my computer is doing a forced restart in 5 minutes.
Oh my
goodness. I couldn't back out of. So feel free to carry on without me. I'll come back on as soon as I'm able. And IT is going to be in the background. Don't let that distract you.
Wow. Christy and Garrett, would you also introduce yourselves? You're muted, Christy.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat what you said? I apologize.
Could you introduce yourselves?
Yes. Yes, I'm Christy Hall, and I am the executive director, the executive assistant for operations here at the Virginia State Bar.
Thank you.
And I'm Garrett Schneider. I'm a law student and the legal intern at the Virginia State Bar. I'm just here to learn a bit more.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us. Okay. Is there anyone that we've left out? All right, good. I'm going to pull up our agenda. Our agenda calls for a quick review of our mission statement and review and approval of the research matrix, and particularly picking out assignments that people on the subcommittee want to take for the research that we do this summer and fall. Discussion of the surveys that we are preparing. They're not ready to look at for use with legal professionals and with the public. And then quick review of our proposed field hearing schedule and locations that were approved by our OASIS subcommittee yesterday, and then talk about a future meeting date. And we have approximately 38 minutes, I guess, to do this before the full committee starts. So we'll move quickly.
David, just
Yes.
because I know that I'm going to be forced off my computer any second, can you all start with the discussion of the field hearings? And then
Yes.
as soon as I get back on, we can look at the review at the research matrix. Okay.
Good. Great
All right.
idea.
So I'm going to jump off now
Okay.
and be
All
right
there
back.
she goes. Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Okay. An important part of this process to me is to gather information from the public and from legal professionals about how does the absence of adequate legal assistance affect citizens throughout the Commonwealth. And the OASIS subcommittee is also going to be looking at with particular regard to localities that have a tiny number of attorneys relative to the population, but it's becoming a challenge, I think, for the entire Commonwealth because of the low number of people taking the bar, and it's something that we need to hear from the public on. What steps did they go through? What impact did it have on them? And then what are some of the solutions? What are the causes of this for Virginia? And there are some specific causes, I think, related to the bar exam probably. And what do we want to recommend be created as solutions? So that is roughly our mission. The field hearings, let me pull up that list. So hang on 1 second. Okay, I believe this may have been distributed to you last night or this morning.
David, it can also be accessed, I'm sorry, this is Lola. It can also be accessed through the VSB website. If you click on today's meeting, it'll take you to the materials.
That's where I found it.
Okay, good. So the locations we're talking about doing the field hearings from include the Eastern Shore, Tidewater, general Tidewater area. I'm thinking about Portsmouth as a location to do that from. The lower Piedmont and Pennsylvania County is part of a large stretch of under-resourced counties running across Southside Virginia. In the Southwest Virginia, we talked yesterday about doing a hearing both in Abingdon, because it's on Interstate 81 and easy to get people to, but also doing the same day, say morning in Abingdon and an afternoon hearing further west back in the mountains because conditions are much different back there. For Lower Shenandoah and the Alleghenies, identified I think Lexington would be a good location for that. Upper Shenandoah, Winchester, and Upper Piedmont, Warrenton, and then finally Upper Tidewater would be Reedville. So that is a lot of locations, and the period of time that I think this needs to take place in is basically starting in the second half of August and running through the first half of November. So that calls for 2 or 3 hearings every 4 weeks in order to accomplish all those. We need to have at least 3 committee members present on each one of those members of the full committee. And I think everybody else can be online. It's my goal to have everything available streaming on a platform so that not only can all committee members watch them, but members of the public can be able to watch them as well. So let me ask first, are there any comments about the locations? We would work with local bar associations principally to identify the venues we use in each locality, and then with the local bars and the legal aid programs to focus on people that we want to reach out to invite to speak, and also to do marketing so we can hear from people that we don't know about but may have something significant to say. Any comments so far?
David, this is Solomon. The only question I had specifically with regard to Tidewater, I guess with all of these, it's sort of the boundaries. How far west do you want to reach in terms of Tidewater? And I'm thinking, I had Jack Randall in my office, and he has an office situated in Suffolk, but he's getting called all the way out to Lunenburg. So I was just thinking about that. He was in front of me the other day, but I'm thinking how far we may want to put an actual physical map so we can know how far to reach or what attorneys we want to come on over to Portsmouth, and how far we want that representation to reach before we cut it off between, say, us and Pennsylvania County.
Excellent question. And yes, that's a long distance between Pennsylvania and Portsmouth. And so that roughly the halfway point, I think there is probably Mecklenburg or Brunswick County. And so that goes starting from the eastward, that goes through western Tidewater and a little bit into south side. So, but I agree that that's a good suggestion, as we just sort of draw a map so we can define where our marketing takes place. And Chris and I can work on that. Other comments?
David, have we looked at whether these locations cover all of the judicial circuits where we know there to be a shortage of attorneys? And the reason I ask that question is I know Surrey County, there's a shortage of attorneys. I think there are 3 of us, and one is the Commonwealth attorney and one is myself, the county attorney. And so I would want my jurisdiction to be able to participate, whether remotely or by attending, and there might be other jurisdictions. Patrick, I think Newport News is on the list as well. And Newport News to Portsmouth, maybe that's feasible for some folks, but maybe it's not for others. So I would be a proponent of adding a second Tidewater location.
You mean a Westerner?
Yes.
Or even
Williamsburg
or something that, you know, Surrey people can come across the ferry and Peninsula people can come up.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But am I right? I mean, when we're talking about, this is Jennifer, when we're looking at the south of Virginia, like 58 that runs east to west, isn't most of that areas that are underserved?
Yes, you're right. Chris's memo that she did in the spring about these sort of under-resourced counties, most of them run along Route 58. So that's south of Richmond and basically between the Blue Ridge Parkway and Tidewater is where all these counties are. So I'm not opposed to doing an additional site either further west, like western Tidewater, or on the peninsula.
Maybe shooting for somewhere near Emporia or between there and Emporia that might capture.
And that's part of the reason I asked the question, because I knew it was quite a, this is Solomon, I knew it was quite of a stretch going straight west all the way to Pennsylvania County. But there's if you get a little further north of 58, that's another group, and I didn't know where that would go. But when I saw the Portsmouth, I was like, okay, we need to define how far out. And because I saw Jack, I knew, and I used to get clients from out in Suffolk. I knew that covered that part of it, but I hadn't thought about Surrey. I always assumed Newport News, in some definition, is Tidewater.
Yeah, I mean, we're all kind of part of the same region.
But Surrey doesn't, but I don't necessarily consider Surrey. So, but yes, we probably do need to pick another point, somewhere in that northwest of Norfolk.
Good, okay.
This is Patrick. Something to also keep in mind is that some of these places that might be suffering from lack of attorneys might not have the strongest bar associations to assist us with the organization of these events. I know Norfolk Portsmouth has a very strong bar association. I'd say Newport News does as well, but some of these a little bit more rural areas might not have the organization that's there. That means that if the larger localities would probably have to accommodate for that.
I think there is where we can call upon local governments and get some space at whatever government complex. You know, if we have to go to the fire station, we can go to the fire station. But that's a valid point, Patrick. There may not be a bar association that can be called on, and I think as a backup, you call on the local government.
Okay. I also have excellent backup, which is legal aid offices. The program that I direct has an office in Suffolk, used to have an office in Emporia, which we closed for budget reasons 10 years ago, has an office in Farmville, has an office in Danville, and I can list all of those and helping us set up logistics as well. And then also, as we need it elsewhere around the state, enlist other legal aid programs in addition. So I think between those and local governments, I think we'll have local resources. Okay, so I'm hearing adding something. Jennifer mentioned Emporia. Patrick, you mentioned Williamsburg, I think.
I just thought that would be a good kind of a way to accommodate peninsula people plus Surrey and maybe people along that 460 kind of corridor. But in the 460, people could also go to the Portsmouth kind of west of 58.
You could end up splitting it, but that's why I asked for a map, because that would give at least two opportunities. Because some may be headquartered on the eastern side, some may be headquartered on the Richmond, Chesterfield, western side, Surrey side, and then that way we get them all.
And who are we anticipating attending these meetings?
there are, I think our list of people that we want to reach out to include the local bar. I think the local legal aid program, community groups that they work with poor people, they work with particular population groups, chambers of commerce that are aware of what is the impact on small businesses and on the local economy if you don't have legal assistance available. So those are starting points. And we've also talked about just doing some general marketing in the communities and a way of screening what people have to say before deciding whether to invite them is to ask them to fill out our survey first. So we have a sense of what they would talk about if they were invited to speak to us.
David, if
Yes.
you don't mind, I could add 2 points to that.
Go ahead, Chris.
One, I think it's really incredibly important that to the extent we're going to any particular lagging circuit, that we do outreach to the members there. And we should be able to identify them by circuit in our membership system and maybe do some emails. Second, I think we need to be strategic about how we involve the committee in the field hearings, because the more we add to our list, the more we're going to bump up against FOIA and just all of the barriers and challenges that come with that. So, you know, I don't really care where the committee ends up on this, but we may want to consider just having 2 committee members assigned for every, and people can volunteer for every field hearing and limit it to that so that these don't become official meetings of the public body. Just something to keep in mind so that we're not hamstrung by FOIA requirements, because there might be some areas where it's really difficult for us to get 3 committee members to come in person.
Well,
And I'll just say,
Chris,
I don't see these as meetings of our committee or subcommittee. Really, these are listening sessions with the public and with the bar. So I don't know that we're there to listen, not to meet and talk about committee business anyway.
And I think I can have a conversation with our in-house FOIA experts about that. But I think that because the committee is putting these on, if 3 of us end up 3 of the members end up participating, we could inadvertently violate FOIA.
Yeah.
So that's more my concern. So I almost feel like we should, just plan to not do that by just inviting 2 people from the committee, and they'll all be recorded. So I think that others could listen in. I just wanted to put it out there because I think it could end up being a little bit of a quagmire, just due to the volume and how quickly all of these are going to be happening. I think it's difficult to predict whether or not we'll be able to plan and get 3 people in person for the ones that require that. So we might want to just engineer it so that's not an issue.
Chris, I'd like to suggest a little more flexibility on locations, and we can survey people in advance. Where do they want to attend and see how many people want to show up at each location. For locations where it's 3 or more, we regard that as FOIA covered and we do all the proper advance notice. But I don't regard that as a big burden. Where we're going to have less than 3 people, then we're not bound by FOIA notice. But either way, it's just procedural. It doesn't prevent us from doing anything we want to do.
Yeah,
Am I right?
think that we just wouldn't want to be surprised by anything. So it will require some administrative work on Christy and me, which, we're happy to do. I just kind of wanted to put it on everyone's radar because a lot more happens behind the scenes than you all see.
Okay, well, I understand FOIA has implementation that needs to be done, but at the same time, I hate to prohibit people from attending a hearing that they want to attend. And, you know, I plan to attend every one. And I hope that we have several people interested in every one. So I don't want to say up front, two is the max. I think that's a bad step.
This is Solomon, and I think that the three government attorneys are sitting here, former government attorneys. So let me say, as a judge, I don't offer opinions anymore, advice anymore. I would just simply say, for purposes of constructing the meeting, I agree with the staff in that you only want two people, quote, responsible for every meeting. Should other committee members come, they're certainly free to sit, observe, and listen. They might want to slide a note to someone, but if you confirm more than two committee members that are going to be there, you will have a potential FOIA issue.
Yes.
Solomon, pardon me, but I do not understand the difficulty of just having to give advance notice. FOIA to me is all about notice. Maybe there's something I don't understand about FOIA.
It's and I haven't done it recently, David, but it has become a sword for citizens as well as everyone else. So that's just a government lawyer experience. It can wreak havoc for anyone that says, why didn't you do X, Y, and Z? And it's gotten tougher since 5 years ago when I left. So I would simply say it's not a bar to anyone coming, but from an efficiency standpoint, it's easier to put two people in charge and then orchestrate it that way.
And this is Patrick. I'll also chime in that with a meeting under FOIA, you also have to have minutes taken, which is also an administrative part of the process that would add to that. So I'm also in agreement with Krista's recommendation.
Same from Lola.
Okay, so the what I'm hearing is a consensus that officially there will be two committee participants at each one of these, and then if others want to show up, that there is basically as observers and not participants. Does that sound right?
Correct.
And I can just talk with Janet about that and whether there's any potential landmines there that I'm not aware of. And if we end up, based on feedback, you know, saying let's just treat them all as meetings, then that's, you know, I'm prepared to do that. I just thought it was worth raising while we had a chance to discuss it.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate you raising it. I just finished 7 years as chair of an electoral board in Lynchburg, dealing with FOIA for every meeting, and it was not a big deal to me. Maybe the bar, you know, requires different things than local governments, but
yeah, I think it's the travel of a statewide group for the in-person portion that sometimes can present challenges that you don't have with people who are more local, but we'll make it work, David. We'll figure out what all the options are, and then you and Lola can make a recommendation to the larger committee as we get closer.
Yeah, a key factor to me is how many people would like to show up.
Yeah.
And if it's just two, you know, it's one way. If it's more than two, it's another way. Okay, but thank you for that. Thank you for the discussion, and we'll iron that out. Okay, thank you for the comment. I think Chris and I will work on, I think you may have missed this part of the discussion, Chris, of mapping out the boundaries of what geographic areas we want to cover with each locality. We had some discussion about holding a hearing in Western Tidewater or on the peninsula. So I'd like to sort of look at that geographically.
Perfect. And then I think we can create a matrix for the field hearings as well, and get people to sign up.
Yeah.
And commit. So, okay.
Good. Okay. Thank you. I'd like to go back to the order of the agenda, and the next aspect of it was the research matrix. To see whether we have any committee members that would like to take responsibility for any of the research topics. And Chris, as we did yesterday, could you pull that up for us?
Yes. All right, there we go. Okay, so this is the matrix with all the tasks and subtasks that are relevant to this particular committee. Let me blow this up for you. As we did yesterday, because we're short on time, let's focus on the main tasks, and if we can get a committee member signed up for each of those, then that committee member can work on coverage for the subtasks. If they need help, then they can do some outreach and get somebody on the subcommittee to sign up. So the first is the survey, exploration, and deployment. There's several surveys that are relevant to the issues that the legal subcommittee is tackling. Most notably, and it's not on here at the top of the list, but it's down at the bottom where we talk more in depth about the law students and law schools and the bar exam, is a survey that we're planning to deploy to law students. What I really wanted to get this group's feedback on, in addition to getting somebody to sign up to help with this, is whether or not there would be any value in surveying Circuit 33 attorneys. And those are out-of-state attorneys for those who are unaware of our circuit assignments. Initially, I thought that this made perfect sense, but in thinking about it more, most of the Circuit 33 attorneys are members of the Virginia State Bar. So they took the bar exam and passed it and were admitted at some point. So it might make more sense for us to focus on associate members and members who are admitted without examination through reciprocity or waiver, that are living outside of Virginia and working outside of Virginia, to understand why they're not active members of the Virginia State Bar and why they've chosen not to practice here, or for the reciprocity members, why they didn't choose to take the Virginia bar exam initially. So just thoughts on that, on what that population should look like. Or maybe I'm missing something about Circuit 33 more broadly that we should be considering.
This is Patrick. I think that it would be interesting to know why they're not in Virginia. Was it some sort of employment situation that drew them out? Because we're looking at kind of what can we do to kind of increase the number of Virginia people practicing in Virginia localities. And so I think that the information would be useful.
So surveying them broadly, not based on their membership class.
Yes.
Okay. And then I didn't know whether anyone had any ideas about how to reach attorneys who aren't associated with Virginia at all, but are in like border states. I could see value in reaching out to that group, but I'm not sure why. I'm not sure how. It would be very awkward to contact other state bars and say, would you be willing to let us administer a survey to the attorneys in your state about why they're not in Virginia, in efforts for us to get more attorneys in Virginia. Any thoughts on that?
That's
Okay.
why I think the Circuit 33 attorneys are important, because I think a fair number of them are going to be right on the borders. It could be North Carolina, Maryland, or DC, or West Virginia. So at least you want to capture them.
Yeah,
Because
we
maybe
could
some of
limit
them
it.
have a by-state practice.
Yeah. Okay. And then we are planning on developing a survey that will be available to all Virginia attorneys, regardless of circuit. And I just, because the timeline for getting that developed is by the end of next week, so that it can be marketed to the VBA meeting participants. The VBA meeting is happening, I guess, starting the weekend of the 22nd. And we want to be able to deploy the survey there. Are there particular questions that are relevant to this subcommittee that you all want to be included on that survey? I think we have to be careful about asking just open-ended questions for their ideas and feedback. I think we can definitely put that on the speaker solicitation form for the field hearings, but we're not going to get a lot of people filling out a survey if they're having to write a lot. So I'm working with a market research person who does survey drafting and deployment for a living. And the open-ended questions should really be limited to 2. So anything you'd be dying to ask all Virginia attorneys related to this issue?
We're getting a lot of static from somebody.
Chris, I can only go off of my experience. I've had 3 bars, Wisconsin, which was diploma privilege. I came to Virginia for 5 years. I went to Atlanta and took the attorney's bar. Virginia is my home. And so that's why I maintained that one. The Wisconsin one sort of lapsed by CLEs and whatnot. So I do think it's important to try to capture those who have multiple bar licenses and the reasons why. Somebody said I left Virginia for a woman that was my wife. And then I came back when family got older. But I think those are the kind of issues certainly we definitely have to concentrate on now, because we don't care if you come back. We just need you to participate.
Yeah. That's interesting. I really love that. And we can get into this a little bit more at the full committee meeting, but that was really what I wanted to cover related to the surveys. Is there anyone who has a burning desire to sign up for this task? And David Weber is working on it on the OASIS subcommittee side. I think it makes sense to have one person from each subcommittee, because we're probably going to want to reach out once and get input on both topics.
And you're trying to get this done between now and next week? Is that right, Chris?
Oh, that's just one survey. There's lots of survey segments that we're going to be developing that aren't on that same fast track. Okay. So it's not going to be a heavy lift for the next week. It's going to be, more work following that. All right. And I'm working on this and dedicated to it, and so is the market research professional.
Well, I'm fine with trying to deal with the that aspect of it, because I think there's
wonderful.
quite a few of especially attorneys of color who may be outside the state.
I would be glad to have you to help with that, Judge Ashby.
Okay.
Chris, an important area of research for us is going to be with the law schools.
Mhm.
And do we have a volunteer who's selected that as an area to help on?
No, because that's really only relevant or highly relevant to this subcommittee.
Yeah.
So is
So-
somebody that wants to do that?
Yes, anybody want to work with the law schools from this subcommittee?
I'll volunteer.
Who was that, please?
That's Patrick. I'm sorry. I forgot I was just a voice to y'all.
Thank you. You're just a pretty voice.
And we could have a second person from this subcommittee on that one. I think it's good to have partners.
I can do it. This is Jennifer.
A lot of this work has been done. A lot of these subtasks we've already hit. So it looks more daunting than I think it actually will be.
Chris, are there any others that we didn't address yesterday that need a volunteer from this subcommittee, do you think?
So
I think we've frozen Chris. Or me. Can anybody hear my voice?
We can hear you, David.
Okay, I think it's just, yeah, the state bar froze a little bit yesterday.
Yeah, it's the building, it looks like.
Okay. Okay, well, we'll get back to you on any other areas of survey that particularly need a volunteer.
David, this is Jennifer. I said that I would help Patrick on the one with reaching out to law schools, but I'm also happy to work on gathering and summarizing approaches and initiatives in other states. At least when it comes to like entrance to the bar, because I already gather a lot of that information for our students.
Of course. Excellent. Jennifer, that's terrific. Thank you.
sorry about that. No, not sure exactly what happened.
Jennifer just volunteered to do everything else. Particularly law schools and other states. So they're both very valuable for us.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And then I don't know, David, you already have Sandra working with you on the field hearings.
Yeah.
So I think we're good there. And then I think the only one would be looking at the VSB member data and related trends. And David Weber is working on that because it's, I think, somewhat related to the surveys. So is there anybody that is particularly interested in looking at sort of like where our attorneys are and how many and trending young lawyers versus senior lawyers, that kind of thing?
Sure, I'm interested in it, Solomon.
Okay. Great.
Thank you, Solomon. Okay. I think the only thing else we need to cover in this meeting, which is about to end, is to just agree on how soon do we want to meet again. And my suggestion is that we plan on meeting on basically a monthly basis, so we can keep each other informed and make decisions together, those sorts of things. And we can do that with a doodle poll of August dates. Does that sound useful for everybody?
Certainly.
Yes. Okay, good. Good. I think we finished everything for this subcommittee, and it's now 3 o'clock, and it is time to switch to our full committee.
Yes, and that's through a second Teams link. So you all should have gotten that link as well. So I'll see you over there.
Okay, thank you, everyone.